Good morning, guys. Welcome into another live session. Today we're going to be pretty much doing the same thing we've been doing for the last couple days. Just going over price, my 2 cents, my interpretation on it, and then seeing if we can get an opportunity in the market today. So as of right now, we have taken this high on NQ and on ES. We've left it as well right here, right? So as you can see, we have swept this high. So that's something I'm paying attention to on the daily chart. And then I'm also looking at the order flow. Again, we're just kind of chopping our way up, but we're moving it higher. I'm still looking at these lows, a little suspicious, given that we can displace lower through all this and come into this unmitigated PD array we've been talking about for the last 2 days. So something I'm not completely discounting, right? We have to keep that in mind. And NQ doesn't really have that big displacement, but it's still there, right? And since it's so small, I usually just combine it with this one. And same thing. And that would be the same gap here, but since this one is unmitigated, I do pay attention to it. But again, it doesn't have to. We can continue to displace higher. We can have another bullish day today, but I do want to see how we respect this continuation order block here, right? If we're going to continue higher, down close candles should be used as a form of support, like we did here yesterday. We came back, tapped that order block, and boom, that confirmed more of our bullish bias, right? We were a little bit neutral yesterday, but we ended up leaning more towards bullishness, given the 4-hour and the 1-hour structure as well. So now let's go down to the 4-hour. Let's see what we see, right? We're just chopping our way up slowly, high resistance, but we're leaving all these lows, which in my head are, they're gonna get swept at one point, right? So it could be today, this SMT could hold to push us lower, and then we could have a pretty down low day today, and start injecting more fear into this market again, which is expected, right? So we've swept this high, we haven't swept it on ES, so we have an SMT. So there's reasons to be bearish today. It's just, do we have the structure to support it, right? Okay, so this line right here is your order block on the daily. I'm just paying attention to how we react off of it. Yesterday we were digging into it and then displacing through it, and then we had the SMT down here, I believe, right? NQ left these relative lows. ES swept, therefore creating this SMT here. So this is something I'm paying attention to see how we react, because there's really nothing stopping it from going lower and coming into these lows. So something I'm paying attention to are these lows here. So today I might be leaning a little bit more towards bearishness, given that we already swept these highs that were the target yesterday, right? So we did end up getting there, just took so much time. And that's honestly not worth the mental, right? But yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on that. Let's look at the 15 minute. So we've opened, we displaced higher. No, we haven't. Let's see. 5 minute, 9:30. We just dumped. Okay, we created a 5 minute right here. We do have an SMT, I believe. We do with these lows here. So we've already swept these lows on NQ, and we have not swept them on ES. Let me see. Okay. So pre-market, we displaced higher, and then at open, we just dumped, creating our first 5 minute for rally gap here. Creating this bearish breaker here, inversion, which we've tapped back into, and it seems like we're respecting that. So again, I don't want to rush into something, but these lows do look really, really good, right? And because we have the SMT at the highs, and we've been slowly just expanding higher, ES has this These lows stacked here, these look pretty attractive, honestly. And then we have more lows here. So yeah, I just want to pay attention to this. There's no real setup for me here. No, there's no real setup for me here. But I do think we go slightly lower. But again, there's nothing for me to participate in this. Yeah. Hopefully the mic's working. I didn't even put on the mic. Hold on. Let's see. Hopefully this is working. Okay, so hopefully I was recording all that. And yeah. If not, we just briefly go over it again real quickly. So yeah, we are leaning a little bit more towards bearishness because we do have this SMT on the daily, right? We swept this high on NQ. We have not swept this high on ES. We have these stacked lows here, and on NQ we also have pretty equal lows, relative lows, right? And on ES we have all this. So we'll see if we end up displacing. There's really nothing stopping it from displacing through there. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking for gaps and stuff like that. So we just had this 4 hour that held. We continue to hold bullish order flow. I want to see how we react once we come into this 4 hour order block here, prior to this huge displacement. So that's all I'm looking for really. And just staying patient for a setup. There's really no setup for me here yet. We just displaced lower, created a 5 minute in a breaker inversion. A lot of people are taking this as their unicorn setup to the downside. You got your breaker, you have your inversion, you have your fair value gap. Their stops all the way up here, and they're targeting more than likely these lows, right? These lows are pretty obvious, but I don't have a clear setup in here yet. If I were to take something from here short, I would want to see some deeper retracement into here, sweeping this high maybe, and having some form of 1 minute structure that shows manipulation, and then displacing myself lower into these lows, right? But we'll see. Not rushing into anything. I want to see how we perform here. Let me check the news calendar. That's what we should be checking first things first. So we don't have any news besides pre-market. We had unemployment claims. We have this orange folder, but it's CAD, so it doesn't really matter. So at 8:30, that's our news candle. Black. Nothing really there. The only setup I see is going to be this right here. But again, not interested in it myself, right? You're just targeting the lows that IQ already swept. And then see if you can get a runner. That'd be the only setup I guess I can see, right? But it's not my favorite. It doesn't look great, but it has the requirements for the model that I follow, right? So yeah, we don't have to take everything that shows up as the requirements for that model, but we do pay attention to it and forward test it and whatnot. So so now we're digging into the daily order block here, right? Let's go back to the 4 hour, and we're going to be digging into this 4 hour order block as well. So we want to see how we react here. Again, we just dumped off open at 9:30. If this was your manipulation leg, we consolidate and distribute. Yeah. Notice how NQ is just not pushing any lower now. So NQ is just meandering around there. And ES has only met its first PT. At this point, stop can go to break even. Since first PT has already been met. Right. And then we'll just be holding a runner to there. But again, this is not a trade I would be interested in. It's just a forward test to kind of get warmed up into this stuff. I do like to forward test a lot, being able to see where the market potentially will draw to and why, but it doesn't mean I have to be in there every single time. So yeah, hopefully this video is not as long as yesterday's. Yesterday's video was 3 hours. That was super long. Super long. But hopefully it was informative and, people were able to get some type of insight. Even if they could just relate, to certain conditions and stuff like that. That's all that matters, right? I don't sell any courses. I don't do any of that. I don't teach people or nothing like that. So I just kind of am sharing my 2 cents on this stuff, and I really have a passion for trading. So yeah, I just like to share. That's it. And I do this every morning, so I might as well, show people that are maybe getting into it. Maybe they can get a better idea on how to read price, maybe how to stay calm during the sessions. I know there's a lot of people that I've seen trade live or trade in general, and they're just super impatient. They're constantly looking for something. Like every fluctuation means something. Like this wick right here, oh, this means we're going to go higher. Let me start looking for longs. And so you start rushing into things, right? And then you start looking at this and you're like, oh, you start seeing every down close candle as an order block to the upside now. And then you want to take this up higher. And you have to be patient, because once you've learned all the concepts, like everything starts to become a little bit more clear. And then you almost want to act on all these different type of potential scenarios that grant opportunities, but doesn't necessarily mean it's going to grant an opportunity. Market will induce a lot of people into getting into some type of play, because in order for someone to think that this is a great opportunity to buy, someone else has to be thinking there's a great opportunity to sell, right? And someone on the other end is going to get burned. So whenever you lose, someone else is winning, and whenever you win, someone else is losing. It's just a game of the market, right? And that's what a lot of people don't really mention. They just think about, oh, just constant winning, and or losing, or winning, losing, winning. But someone is getting hurt on the other end. When you lose, someone else is going to win. And when you win, someone else is going to be hurt on the other side. So if your moral compass is okay with that, I think the way I see it is you put in the time to learn this stuff. If other people have not put in the time to learn it and they're just trying to get lucky, then they're gonna be the other side of the coin, right? It doesn't mean you're not gonna lose. Of course, I've lost. I've posted a lot of my losses. You will lose. You're not perfect in this game. You're far away from that, and you're always learning, because if you lose, it's a great opportunity for you to learn about your impulses, about yourself, about what things you still need to work on, right? And that's why I love the market. It offers you opportunities for you to learn about yourself more than any other career can. You develop your character, and you aim to develop it, um, so that way you can operate calmly, with structure, stoicism, and discipline in the market, right? Without that victim mentality of like, oh, the market's against me, they are running my stops. No, it's not they are running my stops. It's your stop placement was incorrect, and there's a reason why, and you just simply got stopped out, right? There's a reason why you took a loss on this trade, because your placement was incorrect. Your execution was incorrect. You might have the right draw like we had 2 days ago, and then we still get stopped out, right? But it is what it is. You learn from those losses. You don't tilt and try to get back into it, and before you know it, you're in Chop City, you're in Blown City, whatever it is. Bad decisions are made, right? Um, so still nothing for me here. Price is choppy. So this is why we just do a little yap sesh, I guess. Usually it's just quiet here since it's just me in my office and I'm just trading here. But now that I have these videos I can produce, and it's very hopefully it reaches someone that has probably gone through the same thing or going through the same thing, or feels a resonation to some of the things I talk about, some type of connection to it, because trading is pretty lonely. It's pretty tough, but thankfully I've had a great mentor that I've been able to learn from. Obviously I went through all the content of ICT. That's where I've learned. So don't pay anybody to teach you unless you're getting like a private mentor that's going to be there one-on-one. It's going to show you everything, then I guess. But there's a lot of people on Discords and all kinds of people charging all kinds of money to teach you, quote unquote, and it's just simply like watch these videos. So but thankfully I did have that one-on-one mentor, which also happened to be a really great friend of mine. So it was someone I could trust and someone that I could believe, and then someone I saw results in, because it was insane what he was able to do, right? He's very private. He doesn't really talk much about his personal life or anything. He doesn't really have any social media or anything like that, which is honestly the best way to do it. But then again, everybody's different, right? Everybody likes to communicate, different type of personalities and whatnot. But he was the one that kind of started guiding me through all this. So for those that have messaged me on Instagram about how I got started, it was through him a couple years back. So I'm really thankful for that guy, man. But again, you do need that brotherhood. You do need that brotherhood to be able to put you through tough times, and he's kind of been there through all those tough times. So I know he knows who he is if he's watching this video. Appreciate that guy. So let's see, what are we doing here? We're not really moving lower, but we're just slowly making our way down, right? We sweep again, and then we continue to move higher. It's this type of price action I don't really like to be in. Like if I was in this trade up here, I already took my partial at a 1 to 1 point something, 1.3 or so. At this point, I'm just kind of like hoping I don't get stopped out, right? Because this price action is not looking good. We can easily manipulate higher and then continue lower, dig deeper into this order block, which my stop would be in jeopardy if I was in this. But the best feeling is to just be on the sidelines. You don't lose anything. You only gain. You only gain experience. As long as this is not a trade that you would be in, you're only gaining experience, right? Because then you do have that other side of the coin where you have the scenario where you are supposed to be in this trade, but out of hesitation and doubt, you didn't get into the trade, right? And that's when it can really create some type of tension, really harm you more than anything, because now, even though you're not in the trade, you're still looking at the trade as a potential opportunity that you missed out because of your decisions. So then now you start to beat yourself up mentally, subconsciously, that you should be in that trade, and unfortunately you're not. I've done that multiple times. That's why I'm talking from experience. It's just when it's not your trade and it's not something that you really like, and it screams at you, this is obviously going to come lower or higher, then there's no business for you to really be in there, right? But oh yeah, after years of looking at a screen, your eyes do get pretty pretty watery, I guess you can say. And they slightly hurt a little, but not too bad. It's just like a, yeah, it's like, um, when you just like are looking at TV for too long and your eyes are just incredibly watery. That's kind of how it feels like. It's crazy because I only went for a walk this morning. I wasn't able to go and do anything else. I only had so much time in the morning. I woke up a little bit late again, been slacking. I woke up around 5 a.m. and yeah, I was only able to go on a walk with my dog. It's freaking cold out there though. 41 degrees. Jesus, too cold. But yeah, now let's continue to wait. So we've been on here 20 minutes. I like to give my insight just talking. That way, at least you guys get some type of value, and it's not just super quiet. Yesterday, during the 3 hours, I rewatched the whole episode, and it kind of felt like there was a lot of moments where it was just quiet, And I feel like if you guys are here, might as well watch and get some type of psychological insight. I think psychology and trading is the most important thing. A lot of people don't talk about. It's the whole reason for the creation of my page, the whole brand thing, just another transaction. Kind of adopting that stoic mentality of everything is just another transaction in life, right? Everything from the interactions we have with other people, from the trades we take, from the business ideas or ventures we decide to go on, from everything. Everything has its risk and everything has its reward. And within that transaction, you're going to receive something, right? So when you go buy your favorite Nike sweater or whatever sweater it is you're buying, right? There's a risk and there's a reward to that, right? There's a risk that you pay a high price for it, but the reward is that you're going to feel good about it. Um, and yeah, I just view everything through that lens of just another transaction, right? And I really like that. It resonated with me, so I just decided to make an Instagram page one day, and that's how it all kind of started. I remember I was talking to that mentor I was telling you guys about, and yeah, it just literally one day to the next, I just started it, and I try to just grow the page organically, right? And now I have a few followers on there, so I know there's some people that are interested. They do like to listen and they do like to learn, if anything, whatever they can learn. I mean, everybody's journey is very personal. And even if you do have someone teaching you, at the end of the day, you have to go through all the steps yourself, you know. Um, I've also had a lot of people try to learn rather quickly. And unfortunately, like, it's not something that they can do long term. It becomes hard. Mm, So it is what it is. Not everybody, I don't think everybody is built for trading, but I do think everybody can learn the fundamentals of trading, right? Because I just think learning the concepts is like learning another language. That's pretty much it. And with enough time and enough consistency on that craft, you're able to understand and read price action. That's not difficult, especially in hindsight, right? Most of these guys selling you courses are describing everything in hindsight, and that's incredibly easy to do, right? You can look like a precision god in hindsight. To do it in live and be able to execute live, that's definitely a lot harder, because price fluctuation is doing something to your brain where it's just creating uncertainty within a market that's already full of speculation, right? Or at least we've been taught to see it that way. But if you learn ICT concepts, you look at everything through an algorithmic standpoint, and there's reasons why price comes to a specific level and reverses or continues or consolidates. So that's why I really like ICT concepts, because they give me a more logical standpoint to the market rather than just a bunch of indicators that indicate that this is going to happen. But in most cases, and in some cases, it doesn't happen, right? And I think with these concepts, you're able to at least have some more logical sense to why you're entered in trade and what is going on in price action, right? Like why the continuation, why are we displacing higher? What are levels that we could potentially go to? And then from there, you go through all that journey of learning all those concepts. You do a lot of trial and error, you paper trade, you buy all these accounts, these funded, you blow them, you blow your own accounts, you blow real money, whatever. And you go back to paper trading. Who knows? Everybody's journey is different. And then finally you start seeing some consistency, right? You start seeing the model you follow be presented itself every single time. And it's not until you drop all the habits, right, that kind of create this, like, the way that I described it with my friend that I was talking about. um we were describing it as like it feels like a demon takes control of you when you're in that tilt moment, right? Because you don't really, like, you should not be doing things that you should be doing in the market. You shouldn't be tilting, and yet you're still tilting. You're still like continuing to force trade to make sure you get your money back if you've already taken a loss. And yeah, I mean, that's just very true. Everybody's going to go through that. Anybody that tells you that they've been perfect and they haven't gone through that, it's absolutely lying. There's some people that are like, oh no, I'm only making money. I'm not losing. No, even this guy that I'm telling you, he has an incredible win rate, really, really good. Honestly, blows me away with some of the stats, but still takes losses, and he's very honest about them. He doesn't hide them because this is the truth of the game. Like, you're not gonna be a perfect human being. None of us are perfect, right? So the markets are simply a mirror of our characteristics and our overall development, right? If we have the discipline, we will show discipline in the charts. If we have the consistency to do and execute discipline every day, we will show that in the charts. But if we don't, and we're just all over the place, then you're going to get that result in the chart, right? Or if you've gotten lucky, you've also are going to get that result in the chart. The market will make you feel, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. And then one day just wipe all your days away, right? So I'm sure some of you guys have been through that. Um, Especially in the beginning phase. You'll get that beginner's luck, and it feels like you can do this forever, and that this is the next big thing, and that I don't know why I haven't stumbled across this earlier. And then all of a sudden you just get wiped, right? You'll be consistently making some money for a few months, for a month, a week, whatever, and then it just wipes you. It happens to all of us. You get a little win streak and you feel on top of the world. um, I remember I had after I had already paper traded for a little while and I had already learned the concepts, I felt really good about myself. So I ended up putting like a small portfolio of like $1,000 into a live trading account. And I actually was able to double that account to $2,000. And that was a lot of money for me a couple years ago. It still is a good amount of money for anybody. $2,000 pays your mortgage. But anyways, I ran that account up, doubled it, and I felt like, dude, no one can tell me anything, right? And I wasn't sharing it much with anybody because I felt like, oh, this is good stuff. But deep down, I knew I was doing something wrong because I was just kind of rushing into these trades or just going into them based on what I thought would happen and not following a logical plan. And sure enough, the market is incredibly fair and took that account away completely. And it's crazy that it happened in one day. In one day, I blew away the $2,000 my money that I've made and the money that I have put in. So obviously, I've lost a lot more than that in other ventures and stuff like that. Also having to do with the stock market. So yeah, I've gotten my 2 cents of pain. I've lost a couple. I lost a good amount of money. Um, I remember at one point in back in 2018, I remember losing a good amount of my money that was pretty much like my whole salary for the year at the time, and I was working full time at a fitness center. And yeah, I had lost all my yearly income for that year in a span of a couple months, right? So um, trying different things in the stock market. So I've had my overall experience with the stock market. I do respect the risk after losing a lot, and I think that's the only way you get to respect the risk, right? A lot of people like to talk like they respect the risk, they understand the risk, they know how much they're risking, how much they're willing to lose. But then when it's constant beatings, that's where you really get tested. Because I've gone through some pretty ugly losing streaks where it's like 2 weeks of straight losing. And how do you handle that, right? How do you keep your account alive? Risk management, right? That's what everybody says. But then the thoughts creep into your head of you're just continuously losing, man. Like, what are you doing here? Like, are you going to make anything, or are you just continuously going to be losing your money? And then market offers an opportunity, you see it, you forward test it, it goes your way. And then you're like, I could have been part of that. Now that mentality starts to fog you up even more. I could have been, right? The tension builder starts to come in. And before you know it, you're not operating from a sense of control. You're operating from, I need to get this back. I need to win. I need to feel something, right? And now you just start to operate under this emotion of feelings, right? That's why I have this down here on the screen. Um, at one point, I was going through a tough time as well, and my friend he told me he had this thing on his screen, and I went over to his home, and we were back testing and just hanging out, and he told me, he's like, yeah, like the biggest thing for me is just logic over feelings. And I was like, you know what, that makes perfect sense. And whenever you start feeling that sense of like emotion coming into your, because you're going to feel it even if you're already like consistent and doing all these things, with your trading, and you're doing good with your trading, you're still going to feel it. He's even told me himself, he's like, dude, I still have that. It doesn't go away. It's just you learn to keep it at bay. So you learn to keep these feelings at bay, which at bay would be having a logical approach, right? Not operating from a sense of feelings. If every transaction is going to be just another transaction, we have to operate from logic. If not, we will just be simply seeing it as, this could have made me this money. Oh, they stopped me out. Now it's going. All those phrases you hear all day on X or any social media platform. They did it to me again. No, no one did it to you. You did it to yourself, right? So yeah, it's just being accountable for that you're doing the damage to yourself, right? If like, if I keep, like, the last day or so or 2 days that we've been on these little live streams, and whoever's watching them, you've seen the moments where like there is a possibility for me to enter another position in the opposite direction, but it doesn't follow my bias. What is going on in that moment? I'm starting to operate from the feeling aspect. Oh, but I feel like we can go lower, but my bias is bullish. What am I doing? And then I rebalance and realign. We have to operate through a logical standpoint. We cannot be thinking that things are going to go this way. We've made our plan, we follow that structure, and we follow that plan to the T. So if we're only taking long opportunities, since our bias is bullish, which are higher probability because that's what our bias lines with, and everything in the technicals is showing us we're going to go higher. Why are you taking a short? Because of impulse, because of feelings. That's why. Because you feel like you're going to miss out. You feel like you're going to come down here. The market's going to come down here, and you feel like you're going to be able to get that opportunity. When really the market is not doing anything. It's only 10:16. Wait till 10:50 and the macro will kick in, and then we'll see what we are going to distribute to, right? And that's why you've heard that whole time over price, right? Time over price. Ensuring that you wait during that. So mark out on your charts the 950 and 1010. These are the macros, the last 10 minutes and the first 10 minutes of every hour. We should have some type of displacement If we're just consolidating within this, I'm expecting this next macro to be the displacement to either side, right? So, yeah, time over price is really important. There's so many concepts that you can merge together beautifully to be able to build your narrative, to be able to, um, yeah, have a better read on price. Notice I don't have any indicators on this chart, nor on this one. I actually lied. There's one indicator, this text box. Yeah, because if I go, it says remove one indicator. Yeah, this text box is technically an indicator, but it doesn't indicate nothing. It's just an add-on to your chart. But yeah, I know we've been on here for 35 minutes, but I hope that, the conversation has been a little insightful and there's things that you can resonate. Anything that you felt connection to, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram or drop a comment below. What are your biggest struggles? What are moments where you felt like, this is just not something feasible for me, right? And it's crazy because there'll be moments where you are losing consistently, but you're not blowing your account. And then those thoughts begin to creep in. That self-doubt begins to creep in. That's all your psychology. It's all your psychology. If your psychology is not in check and you're not journaling your trades, that's why journaling is so important as well. For people that are like, oh no, journaling is just BS and it's not really going to do nothing for you. Journaling is incredibly important to self-reflect and be able to connect to your subconscious mind, right? Because we're in these markets and we're telling ourselves, oh, I'm this and that. I'm not good. I'm blah blah blah. Your subconscious is taking all that in. It does not know how to take a joke. So the second you're telling yourself you're not good, your subconscious is listening to that. So instead, you should replace all those negative emotions and phrases to, I've made a mistake, but I can correct this. How will I learn from this? And then therefore the next time operate a lot better, right? You learn. You allow yourself to fail to learn, right? A lot of people don't want to fail at all. They're just like, oh no, I'm just gonna win. Like, yeah, right. Go ahead, try to win every day and see what happens, right? Especially as a beginner, try to consistently just win. Oh, but I've won, look, for a whole week. That's fine. Wait till it comes because that will come. And if anything, the more you win, the more you're going to be thinking of that loss. And then when it comes, it's really going to be detrimental because you're not used to losing, right? There's a book by Tom Hugert, The Best Loser Wins. It's a good book, resonates with a lot of the things. There's a lot of areas for traders to resonate in with a lot of the things he describes about. But I don't think that you necessarily need to be the best loser. You need to be the person that reflects the best from your losing, like understanding why, right? Journaling why, talking to yourself why. And it might sound a little crazy, but yeah, you have to be talking to yourself, not necessarily out loud. You could be writing about it. That's a form of talking to yourself. A deep sense of self-reflection. Go do something out. That's why I always post about on Instagram touching grass. That's something I got from ICT. And something me and my friend joke around a lot. I could touch some grass, but when you have a rough day, you got to go touch some grass. You have to go do something outside of your daily routine. Going to the gym isn't enough sometimes because that's something I do every day. So it's almost like waking up and brushing my teeth. So things like maybe going golfing if you haven't golfed in a long time, going to play some random sport, basketball, volleyball, whatever it is, go do that. Go touch some grass. In other words, get your mind off of the charts or off the negative ideas that you've created about yourself. And once you've done that, you're able to come back, sit down, and then look at the charts. After market's already closed, after you can't do any more damage, you can go ahead and see what you've done, what you can correct, and how you can become better, right? If we don't end up taking a trade today, I just hope this video is insightful on the psychology side, since I really haven't sat down and talked to or made videos like this. But it kind of turned into a video like this, literally just a yap session about psychology, better approaches to trading, and things that people can connect to, because I know a lot of people go through this stuff, especially in trading, but they just never talk about it. They never talk about it because their favorite guru is just winning. Their favorite guru is just took this banger right here and somehow caught the top of this and sold, right? Not saying there isn't a way to catch the top of that, but let's be realistic, guys. Everybody that's learning from these people that claim to be mentors and all this stuff, they're not going to be able to do that anytime soon. They're barely going to let alone be able to find a trade, right? So yeah, this price action doesn't look the best, and if your stops, my stop would have hypothetically been at break even right here, I would be feeling some type of way that it's pretty much in jeopardy, right? How much have we dropped down since this massive drop? It was 152 points, peak to trough. We've 172. But yeah, so that's a little of my 2 cents. I can talk about trading all day. Like I said, I have a great passion for this stuff. It just so intriguing. It's so calming, but at the same time, it can create a lot of anxiety and stress. Like it gives you every emotion the human can experience, all in a chart, right? Because you learn about yourself tremendously. And I think that's something that you cannot get with anything else. I can't think of another career that will test every human emotion to that psychological and push it to that psychological limit. What almost feels like you're going crazy, right? And then the people around you make you feel more like you're going crazy, especially if you have a lot of individuals or if you're in that circle of not like-minded people with an entrepreneur mindset, with a because there's going to be risk and everything, right? There's going to be risk for it all. I quit my career to pursue this full time. You know, think of how that kind of like stung on me the first couple of months, first couple days. First couple of days was great, and like, oh, I don't have to go to work no more. And after a couple of weeks, I was like, I lost the source of income. I have to make that up somewhere else. So obviously, I work on other things. I have other little side hustles I do, but it did start to feel the pressure of now this is your only source of income. Make it work. And that's when all the things get a little bit more pressure onto you. Your back's against the wall, how they say it and whatnot. So it's just understanding yourself on a deeper level is granted by trading, I think, once you've reached some level of mastery in it, some level of mastery in yourself, not in not in the charts, in yourself. Right? If you say you're gonna do something, you're typically the person that doesn't do it. That is showing you already a lot of inconsistency with your discipline, with your follow through. So just make sure you do it. It sounds very simple, but it's incredibly hard for a lot of people. Something as small as going to the gym. There's always that excuse that we put in. Oh, I'm too busy. I don't have time. You don't have to go to the gym. You can do a workout anywhere. You can look up a YouTube video, do a home workout. You've worked out today. You've exercised. You've done something different that you didn't do yesterday. And that in and of itself is tremendously great because you will start to build slow momentum, which is a lot better than no momentum, right? And then once you build this momentum, then you continue to do it again the next day and do it again the next day and tomorrow. And then you follow through. And before you know it, you have a week, 5 to 7 days of really, really good days. Now you're starting to feel actual dopamine, not the dopamine you're chasing off getting a win in the charts, not the dopamine you're chasing of just shoving your mouth with food, not the dopamine you're chasing of the things you know you shouldn't be doing, but you do them because they make you feel good, right? That leads me into passions and all the things we struggle with. We struggle with a ton of passions. we struggle with a ton of things. I mean, I myself believe greatly in God. Jesus Christ is Savior. And I think God gives us all these passions to be able to struggle in this life so we can learn more about ourselves, right? So we ask for all these crazy things like discipline and consistency, and we ask for us to be fearless and about what do you think is going to happen in our life. We're going to receive nothing but experiences to create us into that person we pray for. If you prayed to be disciplined, you're going to be presented with a lot of opportunities where you create this difficulty for you to be disciplined, where you encounter a lot of that hardship of doing it every single day, right? If you ask for consistency, same thing. If you ask for a better life financially, you're going to go through a lot of struggle before you can get that. And that's just how life works. But a lot of people prefer to just adopt a victim mentality of like, it's just so difficult for me. Life's been so hard. No, it hasn't. We live in the United States. Life is life is the easiest it can be. You can do whatever you want to do in this country. Don't take it for granted. There's other countries. Don't even get me started. Yeah, it's very upsetting to see so many people have great opportunities in this country. So many people have great opportunities in life, and they just they don't do anything, right? And so I think that's why you always have to be doing something outside of the charts. I have a whole different life. This is just what I share with you guys. My mornings at I don't know what time it is, 7:30 a.m. where I'm at. These are my mornings. This is what they look like, right? Every single day, it doesn't miss, but the weekends. And on the weekends, I'm up early. I'm up by 5:30. I'm up by 5 a.m. I'm going on a walk. The gym's not even open where I go. Then I go to the gym after. I have a routine that I like to follow. It can be hard for people that are, I guess, in my environment as well to kind of follow that routine. They don't have to, you know. My partner does incredibly well. She is able to follow her routine, and that's what works for her. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing that I follow, and vice versa, right? She doesn't have to follow the same exact thing that I do. I understand that some of the things I do are just, but I do them because I want to build the discipline. I want to build a consistency. And I feel like the harder things we do in life, the more opportunity you get to build that, right? So let's hop on the charts to see what's happened so far. So this trade, hypothetically, would it almost hit PT and then just completely reverse. So just look at this price, right? We've come down, we've inversed this. This looks pretty good to the upside, right? But I need more confirmation. I need more confirmation. Okay. So these lows right here, these are your S&T lows. Okay. Okay. It's not bad. See what the stop on that is. $600. I do like it on NQ because we've already swept. Don't like that we didn't close above this wick, but we did displace through that. %50 would be down here. This is not a bad trade. I do like this. I just want to see what. It's premium. Okay. And then we're 10:30. Do like this accumulation. We manipulate lower, we sweep, we create an SMT, and then we start displacing higher. I'm willing to punch it on the order block. Right there, and then I'll just target a 1 to 2 for this trade. So there's 1 risk, and then 2 reward would be right above here. Risking that much and that much. Okay. That's solid. Only if it comes and taps that order block, which would also put me closer to a discount than I would prefer to be in. Right here. Right. It's a little, it's expanded. Technically, you should be joining in right here, but that's just too much risk for me. It would be 240 for this type of trade, because I know there's going to be another opportunity right now, but this does look pretty good. So I'm willing to punch it at the order block if it comes back and fills me. Now that we've created a new high, let's see if we can put it at 50% of this range. I'm expecting us to have a retracement here, right? Which would dig into that order block and come into the 50% of this range. And it'll allow me to have my 1 to 2 a little bit closer. So this is the SMT I'm talking about right here. Right? That's why stop would have to be below the SMT. And I'm only willing to punch it if we come to a discount, which would be here. I might miss out on this. It's fine. This is really much, it follows a model. It's a structure play. It looks good. But I'm not dying to chase it at a premium relative to that range. If not, it should give me an opportunity to enter before taking this high or these highs at some sort of fair value up higher, right? So we just wait. Yeah, because anybody joining in here, right? Maybe their stop is right here, gets taken out, and then goes. It's the way I like to look at things, but we will see if we get filled on this. We also have the macro coming up in about 10 minutes or so. So we'll wait for that. I think by then we should be filled and then see if we can distribute higher. Again, reason why for this trade, I do like the sweep here we had of these lows. Technically, it's these two, which are these two. And that's where we create the SMT internally, right? This is your 1 hour order block. We're also inside the 4 hour order block, right? Change the state of delivery. We should be going higher. And we have failed to displace lower. Every time we try, we just wick. So we don't have energy to the downside, but we do have energy to the upside. So how do I participate in this trade? I need to be able to get in at a discount of the range. Right, and it's right around there. 50%. That's the way I'm looking at that. Right? If it starts leaving without me, there should be some form of displacement created here, so no need to worry. And I'll find an entry in here once we dug deeper into this 5, and then be able to see an opportunity along there. So I won't be chasing this, right? But I will be watching if it does decide to come back. Because now we've gotten close to this gap, and my next close area of liquidity is going to be this high here, right? And if we leave this here, and if we start displacing lower, I like this as the relative highs to target for my first target, right? It's only $200 risk. And then we would target the 1 to 2, which is a little bit higher. Around there. So yes, it's already taken off, which is good. Good displacement. Remember what we want to see too. This create a gap, right? 15 minutes gonna look really nice, to displace higher. We want to see us get through this. We don't want to see any stopping here. So that's what I'll do. I'll wait till we create this gap here. And then that'll be our target. And then we'll be targeting these highs here. But again, I need to wait and see. We're going to be entering the macro. I expect some type of expansion. So that'll give us that fair value up there. Cool. 15-minute looks solid. We're going into the 15-minute sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. And then the 1 minute, I haven't even been looking at that. No need to look at the 1 minute. Solid. So we have the 5 minute here for you. Yes. Oh. Oh, wow. That's pretty good. Very nice. Well, I didn't think many people would watch that 3-hour video, but I guess they did. That's great. I'm sure they found something insightful there. Yeah, 3 hours is insane. Don't expect anybody to watch that. It's too long, but good insight. I think this video will be a little bit better with at least what you get while we're waiting, psychology and stuff like that and personal experiences. But yeah, so I would have liked this gap to be a little bit bigger, but I don't mind this gap, right? As long as we displace with a nice green candle next candle. And this is a gap we can possibly retrace to. All right. If we would have been in this trade, technically you have to join in there, but I wouldn't want this type of risk. I think we would have barely hit the 1-to-1. Not even. Oh yeah, almost there. Almost at a 1-to-1 risk. And yeah, just not my type of trade. I'm not upset at that. I just do like to note it, forward test it. Because again, I was looking at these lows, so I can't say that I was expecting us to rally like this, right? So it wasn't like yesterday where I was expecting displacement, then I got in right away. Even though this is a similar situation from yesterday, right? Yesterday we had that type of displacement over here, right? Around here, right here on this candle. We had that form of displacement. So let's go all the way back to that price action so I can show you guys. It's very similar, right? We had the displacement out of here yesterday, boom, and I joined in as soon as we tapped in, right? Risk all the way down here. Why? Because this follows the context and narrative. I'm willing to risk this much now here. But over here, I was a little bit leaning towards bearishness, bullishness. I'm neutral. So therefore, when I see something like this, I don't want to just get induced. Even though it does look really, really nice, I don't want to get induced. So I wait. What am I waiting for? Some type of confirmation that we are going to be hitting out here. I'm expecting this gap to stay open. If it doesn't stay open, no need to participate in the trade. I wait. I'm not getting the confirmation I want. So therefore, it might be a day I don't trade today, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Remember, we made our money back already and some for the week. Base steps. No need to rush into things, because your week is not $20,000. It's no need. As long as you can pay your bills, that's all that matters, right? At the end of the day, how many people would quit their job and do something that can offer them to pay their bills? I would even take a pay cut. I don't care. At that point, it's you're pursuing something more meaningful for yourself, right? So we did close with a very weak green candle, but we did close green. I want to see how we react once we get into here. I'm not going to be expecting anything crazy, but I do want to see how we react because the fair value gap we left here isn't really that nice for my liking, but it is 5 minutes, so it's a higher time frame for a rally gap, right? So I do want to pay attention to it, and we left a very small one on here. So and on the 15-minute, we're inside this inefficiency and this inversion. So could have a really ugly down close candle. It is what it is, but we've already tapped into the 5-minute on NQ. We have not tapped into this 5-minute over here. This high inside the 5-minute has not been taken, and it's a lot closer on NQ than it is on ES. So I want to see what we do here. We can also offer another thing that we can do is that this inefficiency here can offer us a setup to the downside, and then we wait to see that setup disrespected, then we'll be in there, and that would be our trade for the day. And then we can target these highs and these high and recover this whole move that we had, this dump that we had open. It's really the profile we had yesterday, right? Look at this. It's almost like very much identical. Pre-market, boom, dump. And then we just trickle our way up all day, right? I'm not saying that's going to happen today, but it's a possibility. So you just want to keep all options open, and you want to be able to analyze everything you possibly can to create scenarios, especially when the bias isn't super clear. Like, I want to see lower prices, right? But it doesn't mean it has to, especially when we're just pumping up higher and higher and higher. But these lows look really good, right? I don't have to marry them though. We had lows yesterday too that look really good. It was the same ones. these lows. When we dumped and we're so close, imagine how many people are going in right here, aiming for these lows. And it almost gives it to them. And then boom, rails them. So keep in mind, it doesn't have to go to these lows. You have to be able to adapt. So I want to see how we perform on here, right? What are we doing? We're displacing out of the 5 minute, right? I want to see if we get a setup on the 1 minute here, like this. This is perfect. If we get this, and then the next candles we completely invalidate that setup to the upside, I will be in that. I like that. And as long as we close inside the 5 minute in the next 2 minutes, so it has time. We can come all the way down here and then just retrace and leave this as a wiki candle. That's fine. That's exactly what we want, actually. Keep in mind, ES does have this smaller 5 minute as well, right here. So we're simply retracing price back, but we can't ignore this. We just dump, right? So this is what happens when you're a little bit more neutral bias. You don't have a clear direction, but you want to make sure that you can wait to get the obvious setup to either direction, right? What will we want here? The next 1 minute, I want to see this candle close as a wick and then see if we can get some type of inversion out of here. So in the 8 seconds, please, we would want to leave this open as a SIBI. This is going to induce a lot of people into wanting to go short, right? Everybody's going to be wanting to go short in there. And if we are going to go higher, we're going to inverse that SIBI, and then we can go ahead and enter that trade. But if not, then we're just going to dump. Why? Because on the 15-minute, we have this that we've already tapped into, bearish breaker, right? We have this gap here, huge gap. And the next candle, we can expect it to be a very deep down close candle. So when I can expect both things to happen, I just rather be more cautious and be on the sideline, because we can't use the SIBI to just head lower and then go into this sell side, right? And on to these. I believe this is an order block, right? I think it is. Yeah, it should be the order block on there. Yeah, it is. This one. Cool. All right, so we closed and we completely inversed the gap, right? I want to see if we just completely retrace that. We're still holding that 5-minute gap on ES. Again, we want to be patient. Don't want to rush into anything because it's not super clear. So there's no need for us to rush into anything. Yeah, no. Now, if we leave this gap here, create this inversion, right? And then leave a 5-minute gap, and then we retrace, and then we have some good structure to the downside, then I will be taking that to the downside. But as of right now, I'm just waiting. And I'll be right back because I gotta go do something. I'll be right back. Okay, let's see. Just want to make sure my headphones are connected. Okay, solid. All right, so what have we done? What have we done here? We came back to this order block here. All right. I want to see what we do here. Nothing interesting. Even less interesting. Yeah. Just wait. There's no setup. There's no nothing. The logical thing to do is just stay on the sidelines. That's life. So we're in that macro. So if we distribute lower, and this becomes a 5-minute breakaway gap, it is what it is. I do want to see if this order block holds though, right? Because this is the order block that's holding this SMT below. So I want to see how we react here, because I'm sure a lot of people are sold on the idea that we're going lower, which we could. I'm not denying that idea, but I do like to try to see if what convincing idea gets invalidated. And since we're not in a trade, doesn't hurt us to just watch and frame ideas. So yeah, in this trade, technically I think I would have came back to fill me now. Yeah, I would have been filled in like there. And I would not feel that comfortable being in this trade, honestly. One, because we've already expanded and ran, right? This was the run I was going for. Hopefully it would come into there and then leave. Not be done, but it didn't give it to me. But if you're in this from here, you have your stop here, and you're targeting a one to who knows what, two, currently down in the position. And your last line of defense is really just this order block, because we've invalidated this 5-minute, completely came down. So your last line of defense is going to be this order block and this SMT that's holding. You only have two real PD arrays that are holding. And on the 1 minute, you have your inversion, you have your fair value gap displacement, and we're still holding this breaker, right? Right here. Something to note. We're holding the breaker, but it's not looking too good. So, yeah. And we've created relative highs. Interesting. 33 seconds or 30 seconds or so. The 15-minute is displacing lower. So as expected, this 15-minute could be a dump, right? Because we've already tapped into it. We came back into the breaker, and now we can go ahead and dump lower, right? If we're going to dump lower. In hindsight, now I'm looking at that trade that potentially we could have taken, which is right here. Your stop could literally just be at the low of the fair value gap and then just targeting the 5-minute. And then maybe this, but you would have came short of that. Just looking at that. But that's just not my style of trading, really. So Yeah. This change in the state should be rather instant, and it's not really giving it to us, right? We'd have to see a pretty instant change. That's what all the people say. Uh, let's see. Hmm. So do we have a setup to the downside? We do not. We never tap back into that. No real setup to the downside. On ES, we also do not. Nothing. Nothing, nada. Mm-hmm. So if I was in this trade already, because it would have filled me right there, right at the order block, stop below here at the S&T low, and then we're just targeting our 1 to 2. I wouldn't be really confident in this trade. Why? Because all our PD arrays have already failed, right? We've created PD arrays to the downside. The only thing that I'm looking at now is just this discount wick, since this order block has failed. So we have one PD array fail, two PD array fails, SFT is the only thing holding, and this discount wick. There's a higher probability that this fails than it works out, right? And that's just what I'm looking at. Like, I'm not in a trade. There's a reason why I took the trade off, because I said if we were going to participate in this trade, it would have to do it from when we were at this point, this high, right? And then come lower and then fail us, and then we would go. But it didn't. So therefore it went, tapped the 5, which would have been the target, and this. I'm no longer interested. So that's when my order came off. And right, we can well go to the downside. Why? Because we're inside this 15. We've came up into this breaker. It makes sense for us to go lower as well. So when in doubt, stay out. When you have a case to both sides, stay out. This forward test hypothetically would have been negative. No need to be in this. This is how you can avoid those losses again. It doesn't mean that we're guaranteed to win, but it gives us a better edge in the market, right? And there's no setup in here that I feel like, oh, I missed out on, right? There's no setup in here that, oh, we retraced back, because this looked pretty good if we would have dumped back into there, tapped it, and then got. But we never did on either indice. So, and then we never tapped into the 5-minute. It became that breakaway we were talking about, right? And there it is, stopped out on that, hypothetically. So yeah, it just goes to show you, being patient pays. Because if we don't take any trade today, we've gained experience. We've gained knowledge on how to navigate these type of conditions, right? And then along the way, we're just learning as much as possible. And that's all it is to trading. Right? The only other trade I saw was this one, but it wasn't my cup of tea. So I'm not going to act like I would have took this. Now we're going to be heading into the daily order block, which is right here, right there. Now we have these relative lows here. But I want to keep in mind that we have left these highs relative to each other. So that draws my attention for them to be taken out. We engineered buy side liquidity. But before we got those highs, did anybody going in here to try to chase those highs got destroyed? Anybody still having faith in this going in here got destroyed? And there's traders right now that are trading this as a sweep to go higher. They're buying here and their stop is somewhere along the lines of something like this. They're probably giving it a few points. Maybe just like 20 points, and they're aiming for these highs, right? There's all kinds of people that trade differently. Some people like to trade turtle soups with an SMT, right? We put in an SMT there. We put in an SMT here. And then your first partial comes off at the 5, and then we go to the highs, right? But that's just not my style of trading as well. I'm gonna create this inverse here. Could be an opportunity there with a very tight stop, and then we could target these highs. I think one more day and then I won't be sick. One more day. I do like this long here, but it's not enough. But I do think this works out. Right there. Filled in there. Now let's see if we can go to the high on this. To these relative highs. After sweeping, after the SMT, and not leaving a gap on the 5 here, but we did leave a gap on the 5 on NQ. Expect this gap to be ran through. We'll see. This would be a high risk play. I stop below, right below the inverse after the SMT's been put in. That's as low as it can go right there. And it would have been stopped down. Yep. I really like the forward test ideas. As you guys can tell, I put a lot of long tools and all kinds of tools everywhere. Not for, I could have. I just like to forward test them because those are things that I'm also back testing on. So just want to see them in real time. It's always better to see them in real time, but I won't put risk behind them. So we don't have a gap on the 5 here, but we do have one on NQ. On the NQ. Right there. Again, this is not a trade I would take, but this is something that I know people are taking. They're just turtle swooping out there in SMT to see if they can pump up to these highs here. Cool. Wow, those I like cycling. There's these specialized tarmac bikes, S-Work models. They're incredibly expensive though. Even used, they're like $10,000, $8,000. It's insane. But one day we'll get one. A bicycle. I remember one time I told my dad about a bike being that much, and he was like, couldn't believe it. He's like, there's no way it's as much as a used car. Yeah, 10,000 bucks, I guess. Yeah. Um, 15. 1 hour. Yeah, that 1 hour is looking pretty bearish. These lows look like they're in play. 4 hour. These lows look good still. Yeah, a lot of waiting. Hopefully, we'll probably cut this video at 2 hours or at 1 hour 30. I don't want to make this too long. Yeah. It's not too late. It's 8:18 already. So this is where the relative lows are at, right? Same thing we got on ES, breaker, inversion, 5 minute. The only thing is that we did tap into this inverse here. And we did not tap into the inverse on NQ, but we did tap into it on ES. And then we have the breakdown here, creating an S&P at the highs to come higher, possibly to mitigate this 5, and then dump lower. So we'll see how we mitigate this 5. If we can get a setup into here, displacement lower, could be interested in that, but at the same time, I like these highs. So I'm conflicted. I'm not gonna lie, I'm conflicted into what direction really. I am leaning more towards on the higher time frame bearish, but I'm looking at these highs and I'm like, wow, they look enticing. Sweet. Let's see if we go to those highs. If we go to those highs, and GG's. Oof. I was having a little bit of a cough there. All right, so wait till we tap into this five, see what we do here. But yeah, anybody that played on the sweep after the SMT, solid. Right, not me though. Nothing. Nada. All right. What do we have on the one? $15-minute is looking a little bit. Yeah, that SMT. That SMT, I'm telling you. These things are great. One of the most underrated tools, in my opinion. People don't even look at SMTs, but hey, some people don't even use bias anymore, I guess. Doesn't even matter. The hair sticking out of the hat and everything. There we go. All right. So we didn't even tap into this 5, but we are tapping into this 5 with this inverse. Interesting. Well, we have Ethereum above 3,200. Nice. XRP at the $22.14, 15 cents. And Bitcoin at 92. Wow. I'm sure we have a fair value up on the 1 minute. Yeah, right there. I would like to see if we're going to take a long into these highs. Nice expansion out of there. On the next 5-minute candle, though. This one's pretty much over. Right. These highs are the short-term draw internally. After we've taken this liquidity here and put in the SMT and we're showing displacement higher, I would want to see a big displacement here, inversing this small gaps, right? Because we haven't even tapped the 5 on there. So just keep waiting. Just keep waiting. See how boring trading can be? Very boring. How long have we been on here for? Almost 2 hours. Hour 48. Nothing. There's the expansion. But we are not expanding with one candle through these gaps. Right. I guess we did with this one, but it's not super clear. Now we've tapped into the 5. Let's see what we do here. We have an SMT on the 1, tapped into the 5. We have an SMT on that PD array to the downside. We have to wait. Mm-hmm. Yep, this price is diabolical. Diabolical. Like, zoom out. This is the 5 minute right here. Just consolidating, really. Nothing super clear. We have news tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow we have red folder news, pre-market, and at 10 a.m. So, yeah. Yeah. That's the boring part about trading. When you're just waiting. You're just waiting and waiting. And price is doing this. Now there's two options here. You can call it a day, or since we haven't taken a trade, we can always come back PM session and see if price clears up. Because typically, if it's not clear in the first session, it should be cleared up in the second one. So that's what I'm thinking. Because even though those highs look a little inducing, we could just be having that down day. Because on the daily, we are a little bit more permissible to go lower for those relative lows on NQ that we discussed. So I can't marry the idea of going long for those highs. I've been waiting for a nice big displacement so we can target those lows. So if we get those, my first target would be here on NQ. I mean on ES, sorry. And then we would target these lows here, right, that we haven't taken. But we'd have to be meaningfully closing bearish on both. So right here, this candle on the 5 should be very down closing. We should down close it if we're going to be looking for that. If not, it's just going to chop around. So expect this candle to be down close candle, and then see if we can find a 1 minute structure entry. If we can, then we'll take that, and that'll be our morning trade for the day for the lows. Because there's all this liquidity we've been building on our way up, and then on ES we have these relative highs, right? I mean relative lows, sorry. So did we close bearish? Absolutely not, right? On the 1 minute, we do have that bearish gap. I'm not gonna take that. Doesn't look good, especially after all this chop. I'm gonna call the video here, and then I'll come back PM session if anything. But meanwhile, I'll just go hit the gym, go do something else, because this price action is not ideal. And I don't want to be here for another 2 hours waiting and waiting. So I'd rather just call it here, take a little break. I think we've been on here for too long. We're about to hit the 2 hour mark, if anything, 2 minutes away. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you guys found the beginning, at least of the video, and all the conversation talking we had insightful. If you guys want me to touch on another topic or anything like that, feel free to shoot me a DM or drop a comment. I've been getting quite a few people reaching out on Instagram, so I appreciate all your guys' insight, feedback, and yeah. So hopefully you guys have a wonderful day. And if we do get on PM session, I'll record it, I'll post it. It'll be something similar to this. But if not, then I might just call it a day and enjoy the rest of the day until tomorrow, since tomorrow we do have high impact news driver at 10 a.m. and 8:30. Today we really didn't have anything but this pre-market one, which didn't do much, right? 8:30 right here. Very lame candle. And then we have this move up, and then we just dump, and then we just been consolidating. So what can we expect after an expansion? We can expect consolidation. So that's what we're doing right now, right? Accumulation, manipulation, distribution, reaccumulating. Are we going to manipulate and then distribute? More than likely, I think we go to these lows. I just don't have, I don't want to be here for another 2 hours waiting for that, because this can happen during PM session. That's the reason why I'm coming back, if anything, PM session. Because it's a very high probability that we do have these lows taken, but not until later in the session, right? So that's my 2 cents on today's review. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Thank you guys for tuning in. For those that made it all the way to the end, you officially don't have any brain rot. You know, your brain can handle these long-term videos. A lot of people's attention span is so short. But anyways, have a great day. I'll see you guys later.